Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Destiny 2 build showcase, but with a little twist for this video. Today I will be featuring 3 of my absolute favourite builds from Season 19 to grind for Lightfall in the next few weeks. I'm featuring one build from each class to complete Lost Sectors, Nightfalls, Dungeons, Seasonal Activities, and completing Powerful and Pinnacle rewards. However, if you're interested in only one class, I'll leave timestamps right here, and I'll put links to the full build showcase videos in the description, but make sure you stay till the end of the video for some news on the future of this channel, coming with the Lightfall expansion. And now, let's get straight into the builds. For the Warlock build, I've chosen to go for my Starfire protocol build, which grants us infinite high damaging grenades to destroy champions and bosses, while granting us healing and super energy. This build starts off with the Starfire protocol exotic chest piece. This exotic grants us 1 extra fusion grenade, and grenade energy is refunded from empowered weapon kills, which works on both rifts and Well of Radiance, and as a bonus, grenade kills also refund rift energy. For the subclass, we have Well of Radiance as our super, with the Empowering Rift to complement our exotic, with the Incinerator Snap melee and the Fusion Grenade. When it comes to aspects, I've chosen to go for Touch of Flame for double grenade explosions, meaning basically double damage, and Heat Rises for melee energy from airborne final blows, and healing by consuming our grenades. And with how quickly we get back grenade energy, this is more useful than you might think. There are 4 fragment slots to enhance this build. These will be filled by Ember of Torches, where powered melee attacks make you radiant, Ember of Eruption, to give solo ignitions increased AoE, Ember of Ashes, to apply more scorch stacks, and Ember of Combustion, to cause ignitions from super final blows, which does work with our Well of Radiance. The combination of the exotic and the subclass grants us infinite grenades that deal loads of damage, but we do still need some mods to regain super energy extremely fast, and to gain healing on grenade final blows. For major mods, I'm using Elemental Ordnance to produce Elemental Wells, and Elemental Charge to gain stacks of Charge of Light from well pickups. To provide healing, I'm running Well of Life and Heal Thyself to make us almost unkillable as long as we pick up wells and get grenade kills. And I'm also running Seeking Wells to make gameplay more fluid. When it comes to minor mods, this build uses Harmonic Siphon to create Orbs of Power, and Ashes to Assets for super energy from grenade final blows, making this mod an essential part of the build for producing Well of Radiance. To further utilize our Orbs of Power, I'm running Recuperation and Innovation mods, and for some ability regen, I'm running Perpetuation and Distribution mods on the class armor. This build really is amazing for any activity with infinite grenades, abilities, supers, and healing, making it great to grind for Lightfall. And once Lightfall drops, this build will only get better with the new changes coming to Solo 3.0 and mods. If you want a more in-depth look into the build, make sure you check out the link to my dedicated video in the description, where I've also left a dim link for the build. But now, let's check out the Titan. When it comes to the Titan, I've chosen to go for an Arc build with the Thunder Crash super and the Curious of the Falling Star exotic to give us a build with a high impact burst damage super and an infinite ability loop granting super energy at an extremely fast rate. Kicking off the build, we have the Curious of the Falling Star exotic, which grants 100% extra damage to our Thunder Crash super and an overshield on activation. This will give us a super that deals over 350,000 damage on hits, making this build great for defeating champions and bosses in all activities of the game on any difficulty. For the subclass, I'm running the Thunder Crash super with the Thruster class ability. I'm also using the Thunderclap melee for its effectiveness against single targets and groups, and the Pulse Grenade for ad clear. When it comes to aspects, I'm using Touch of Thunder so that our pulse grenades periodically create ionic traces and restore our ability energy, and I'm pairing this with the Knockout aspect to make us constantly amplified and to grant us health regen. With this build, there are 4 fragments to choose from to help boost ionic trace production and make our grenades even deadlier, the first of which is Spark of Magnitude, extending the duration of our grenades. I'm also running Spark of Shock to jolt targets with grenades, and Spark of Ions to create ionic traces when defeating those jolted targets. The last fragment in this build is Spark of Discharge to create ionic traces with Arc Weapon Final Blows. For the major mod selection of this build, I'm using Elemental Wells to increase ability and super regen rates. To create these wells, I'm using Elemental Ordnance and Armaments for wells on grenade and arc weapon final blows, and Bountiful Wells to double the amount of wells produced. These wells will also activate Font of Wisdom for a constant boost to super energy, and I'm also using Seeking Wells for some quality of life with gameplay. When it comes to the minor mods, I'm running 2 sets of Ashes to Assets for super energy, with Impact Induction and Innovation mods for grenade cooldown. This build also has 2 bomber mods to reduce grenade cooldown when using our class ability, which is where we have the Thruster ability for its lack of animation and faster uptime. This build is absolutely amazing for ad clear with the constant arc abilities, which create lots of super energy to deal champions and bosses thanks to the high damaging Thunder Crash super. If you want a more in-depth look at this build with how the mods and subclass synergies work and what weapons to use, making this build even more insane, I'll leave a link to my video in the description. But for now, let's check out the Hunter. For the Hunter build, I'm featuring what is probably my favorite build for this class in both effectiveness and just pure cool factor. This build lets us throw out an infinite amount of throwing knives that can deal over 330,000 damage per hit, meaning this build can one-shot champions while also having the ability to clear ads and restore health. To start off this build, I'm using the weighted throwing knife, which deals extra damage on precision hits and recharges our class ability. And for the class ability, I'm using Gambler's Dodge to recharge our melee, and I'm also using the Healing Grenade for some survivability, and the Blade Barrage Super for boss DPS and ad clear. For the exotic in this build, I'm using Arthur's Embrace, which increases our precision melee damage by 200% and grants unstoppable staggers to melee. This exotic alone boosts our weighted throwing knife damage to 200,000, and when we pair it with a 1-2 punch shotgun, we can get over 300,000 damage on melee hits. Getting back to the subclass, I'm running the aspect Gunpowder's Gamble to compensate for not having a damaging grenade, and an essential part of this build is the aspect Knock 'em Down, where radiant final blows of our knife fully refill our melee energy. When it comes to fragments, I'm using Ember of Torches, where powered melee final blows make us radiant, tying in perfectly with Knock 'em Down. The second fragment is Ember of Solace, which increases the base duration of Radiance and Restoration, paired with Ember of Imperium to further extend these durations with solo final blows. This build already works perfectly without mods, dealing insane damage from infinite melees. However, the mods I've selected will grant super energy, weapon damage, and other nice to have benefits. For the major mods, I'm using Elemental Wells, being acquired with Melee Wellmaker and Bountiful Wells for 2 solo wells on each melee final blow. These will flow into Font of Wisdom and Font of Might for increased weapon damage and intellect, and Well of Life is also being used for increased regeneration on well pickups. When it comes to minor mods, I'm using Hands On for extra super energy on melee kills, with champion kills granting 10% supercharge instantly. I'm also running Insulation and Perpetuation mods to make sure we have a dodge available in case of a knife miss. And for some survivability, I'm also using Better Already and Resistance mods to help make sure we are a complete glass cannon. This build is actually amazing for any tier of content and is extremely fun to use with a simple combo dealing over 300,000 damage. I've already made a dedicated video on this channel, and if you want a more in-depth look at the build, I've left a link in the description. With only 2 weeks left to Lightfall, these builds will help grind power levels and weapon and armor rolls by completing activities all the way up to Master and Grandmaster content. These builds will also be good for completing the Lightfall campaign and acquiring the new Strand subclass. And with the changes coming with Lightfall, I'll be making updated videos on all these builds since they should be even better than they are now. The arrival of Lightfall also brings some changes to this channel and my journey on YouTube. Up to this point, I've been uploading build showcase videos on Destiny 2 almost every week. When Lightfall drops, I will of course still be doing those, but I'll also be streaming Destiny 2 and other games at least twice a week, with the first stream starting on the Thursday after Lightfall drops, right here on this channel. I will be uploading a video with more precisions on the streaming and the new video schedule in the coming weeks, but if you enjoy my content and this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel for even more content, and comment with suggestions to builds you would like to see once Lightfall drops with new changes to the 3.0 subclasses and mods. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.